Sliver. The lane to Mr. Bender's house is quiet. A breeze rustles golden leaves end over end along the gutter. The same breeze cuts across my face. It is cold, but I don't shiver. It's only California cold, not Boston cold. Mother and Father claim I will never feel that cold again. Maybe. Do I really want to live for 200 years? Then again, do I want to live for only 2 either? Is that decision up to me? I'm nearly 18. 18 what? An 18-year-old thing that can make a choice? If Father really believes what he says, that there's a most important 10%, then one day I may make the choice to go to Boston. Kara and Locke are in Boston. A gust whips my hair across my face, and I startle, stopping in the street, closing my eyes but still seeing, remembering the feeling, brushing strands from my face 2 years ago. The saltiness, the crispness, the foamy spray of a nearby crashing wave, the sound of gulls overhead, the feeling of sand between my toes. These memories descend out of nowhere, giving me pieces of who I was, but their significance is lost. I sigh and resume my walk, not knowing if this memory is important or just more of the jumbled trivia of Jenna's life, like sock shopping. Maybe that's all any life is composed of, trivia that eventually adds up to a person. And maybe I just don't have enough of it yet to be a whole one. My half-filled memory is pocked with extremes, flashes of surgical clarity, paired with syrupy, slow searches for basic words any 4-year-old would know. Moments of startling insights followed by fits of embarrassing denseness. Vast gaps where I can't even remember what happened to my best friends. And then glimpses from my infancy that should never be remembered. But then when I'm feeling the least human, I remember kissing Ethan and feeling intensely alive. More alive than I think the old Jenna could ever have felt. Would that make a difference to the FSEB? In dark, silent moments in the middle of the night, alone, I count the number of times my chest rises, watching with detached interest this thing that I am, knowing my breaths don't take in oxygen. It's only for show. I'm almost impressed with the rhythm of it all, in a repulsive sort of way. And then it leads me, unexpectedly, back to a place where I can almost feel my fingers touching who I used to be. Jenna. The real Jenna. I wonder, is there such a thing? A real Jenna? Or was the old me always waiting to be someone else too? Hurry, Jenna, hurry. Kara's and Locke's voices won't let go. Or maybe it's me who won't let go. I jiggle the latch on Mr. Bender's gate and swing it open. His house reminds me of Thoreau's Walden. It is larger, but still rustic and natural, overgrown with landscape, banks of wild white roses tangling across the porch roof. He doesn't answer when I knock. I walk around to the side and down his long driveway. I see him examining a window on his garage house. Hello, I call. He turns and waves. Good to see you. I walk closer and see the window is shattered. You broke it? Someone did. He says someone like it's a name. I look inside. Tables are overturned. Paint is thrown against walls. An upholstered stool is slashed and the stuffing pulled out and tossed. But it is the aqua-colored car parked within that stops me. The dusty cover has been partially ripped away to reveal an old and obviously out-of-commission car. I've seen that car before, but I don't know where. Maybe in a photo? Or maybe I've only seen one just like it. Did you call the police? I ask. No, I don't want to get them involved. Because of your secret? I have to weigh the risks. This isn't worth it. I can clean this up in a few hours, and the monetary loss isn't more than a few $100s. What bothers me most is they didn't take anything, at least as far as I can tell. I have tools worth thousands of dollars in there. They didn't want that. Just the sick pleasure of destroying something that belongs to someone else. Like the first day I met him, he looks off in the distance toward the white house at the end of my street, and he shakes his head. I can help you clean it up, I say. Not now. I need a cup of tea. I'll do it later. May I ask a favor, then? Can I use your netbook? He hesitates. Mine's broken, I add. It's only a small lie. Let's go. With a few carefully worded inquiries, the facts spit forth freely. Mother and father would be horrified. I'm equally horrified, knowing that this is another suspicion confirmed. They are still keeping secrets from me. Important ones. Are there others? Nothing is denied by Mr. Bender's netbook, as it was with mine. He brews a cup of tea and gives me privacy as he shuffles through some proofs. News clip after news clip fills in holes, and at the same time creates new ones. They wrap around me in ways I hadn't considered. I feel... what? Mother's breathlessness? The need to look away? My bioengineered blood pooling at my feet? I lean back and stare at the screen. You knew about Kara and Locke, didn't you? Mr. Bender sets aside his proofs and nods. I stare at the screen, absorbing word by word a sliver of my life that changed everything. In spite of a pending civil action, the district attorney's office reports that it has no plans at this time to prosecute Jenna Fox, 16, daughter of Matthew Fox, founder of Fox Biosystems, based here in Boston. There were no apparent witnesses to the accident. Passenger Locke Jenkins, also 16, died 2 weeks after the accident without regaining consciousness. Kara Manning, 17, the second passenger, sustained severe head trauma when she was thrown from the car and as a result could not give investigators any information. She died 3 weeks following the accident when her family removed life support. My fingers shake. I press the key to bring up the next page. Fox, who didn't yet have a driver's license, is semi-comatose and still in critical condition. The severity of her burns and injuries makes it impossible for her to communicate or give authorities any details about the accident. Investigators say they can't rule out the possible involvement of a second car, but it appears that high speeds and reckless driving contributed to the car veering off Route 93 and tumbling 140 feet down the steep incline. The hydrogen in the Tri-Energy BMW, registered to Matthew Fox, exploded on impact, leaving investigators little evidence to piece together events from the evening of the crash. I close Mr. Bender's netbook. Somehow I knew I would never see them again. Something deep inside me told me they were dead. How? When? Before they scanned my brain, before they removed my 10%, did I hear someone at the hospital talking? Did Mother sob for Locke, then Kara at my bedside, knowing her daughter was responsible for it all? But I wasn't. I couldn't have been responsible. It's not true, I say. I didn't do that. I would remember. You lost 2 friends. You may have blocked it out. Or someone did. No wonder Mother and Father won't talk about it. I killed my best friends. High speeds and reckless driving. Their precious Jenna wasn't so perfect after all. Hurry, Jenna. Is that why the words keep circling through me? Trying to remind me of what I did? Strangely, I feel something. But it's not guilt. Does that make me a monster? I remember. Something, a bit. A black sky. Stars. The halo of a streetlight. Here, throw them. Keys flying through the air. My hand stretched out. Hurry, Jenna. A glimpse of the night, everything changed. Mother and Father may have blocked out most of it, but they couldn't get rid of it all. A tattletale neurochip decided I would get a hooded peek of what I had done. Is the joke on Father or me? Mr. Bender suggests a walk in the garden. He feeds the birds and they peck in his palm. I stretch out my palm briefly, but again they don't come to me. And maybe now I know why. One simple thing. I rip open boxes, box after box, books, dishes, papers, clothing, keepsakes. I dump them out, box after box after box. I ransack, I search, I break. None of it is mine. I collapse in the midst of the disaster I've created in the garage, and garbled noises crawl up my throat. It sounds like an animal. I am a kept animal, with no past but what they will give me. And all I wanted today was one simple thing, a red skirt. Another dark place. Floor to ceiling, don't you think? Claire points her laser to the ceiling and records the measurement. Fine, I say. I watch her, measuring for drapes for my window. I take in the angles of the room, the slant of light flooding through panes of glass, the planes that separate us, the irony of drapes to create darkness. I stare at her. My mother is an older version of me, but she's also something I will never be. Old. My skin and bones will not age. My biogel will simply reach the end of its shelf life and cease to operate. If I were to marry, I would not grow old with my husband. I could either die after 2 years or outlive him by 100. An interesting prospect. What price did Claire pay to keep her only child? She sees me staring, and it makes her busier. She chatters, fills space, is careful but does not address my gaze. She treads even faster to keep on the surface, but somehow I don't count it against her. She said that for months she was in as dark a place as I. Maybe staying on the surface keeps her from returning to a place where she can't breathe. She measures length and depth as carefully as a surgeon places a scalpel, as though it's a matter of life and death. Maybe for her it is. She's always careful around me. Is that why the word hovers close in my thoughts? Careful with her movements, careful with her words. Nothing is relaxed between us. Is she careful because she thinks I will break? Or maybe because she will? When I'm alone in the dark counting my breaths, is she doing the same in the darkness of her room, wondering, was it all worth it? Now, with light streaming through the window, she is busy, determined to gain control over what is natural. Each of her movements is like a blow, a punch, a fist kneading something into shape. Accident, I say. Her laser clicks off. She looks at me, instantly pale, her eyes sunken. What? I've learned how to say it. Accident. I assume that was another suggestion you and Father planted to never bring up the accident. She sets her laser down on my nightstand. She looks at me blankly, weak. No, she says, easing herself down to the edge of my bed. I think it was something inside of you, not allowing you to say it. She nods her head, like she is plucking together words she's been saving. And we didn't want to push you. They're dead, I say. Her eyes glisten. She holds her arms out to me, and I slip through space like a feather on a current of wind, effortlessly carried by the force that is Claire. I sit on the bed next to her, feeling her arms holding me, rocking us together in primal rhythm. We tried to bring it up at the hospital, she whispers, her breath and tears warm on my cheek. It was too hard for you. You went into distress just trying to communicate. Shortly after, you slipped into a coma. We were afraid that we had made it worse, pushing you too hard. We didn't want to make that mistake again. She pulls away and looks into my eyes. It was an accident, Jenna. An accident. You don't have to relive the details. Is that why you blocked it all from our netbook? She nods again. When you woke up, you didn't seem to remember it. We didn't want you to come upon something unexpectedly and have a setback. She pulls me close again, my head on her chest. I can hear her heartbeat. Familiar. The sound I heard in her womb. The whoosh, the beat, the flow that punctuated my beginnings in another dark place. I had no words for those sounds then, just feelings. Now I have both. I can remember it as clearly as I remember yesterday. We lie back on my pillows, holding each other without talking, and time becomes a forgotten detail. Seconds and minutes stretch into an hour or more. I don't want to move. Claire strokes my forehead, dozing, the slant of light through my panes growing golden, then dim, the afternoon passing. I'm sorry, I finally whisper. Sorry for Locke and Kara. Sorry for her months of worry. Sorry for how we have to live now. Sorry for pushing her away. Sorry that I'm not perfect. Shh, she says, stroking my head again, and then she adds, I'm sorry too. I see the ring of swatches sitting on my nightstand. The swatches, I say. They're all blue. Do you have any that are red? Red? Can I have red drapes? You can have anything you want. Anything. I close my eyes, pressing my ear to her chest again, hearing the sounds, the pulse of Claire, the world of my beginnings, the time when there was no doubt I had a soul, when I existed in a warm, velvet liquid that was as dark as night, and that dark place was the only place I wanted to be. Percentages. I fold a yellowed lace tablecloth and lay it in the bottom of a box. I'm sorry about the vase. I wasn't careful. Lily makes a sound. I'm not sure if it's a snort or a laugh. That's an understatement. I heard her cursing this morning. I knew immediately why and ran out the back door. She had discovered my rampage in the garage when she raised the door to take the car out. I don't have any money, but I'll find a way to replace it. She doesn't address my offer. Breaking things seems to be your new specialty. I almost wish I hadn't left the morning you started flipping plates for your parents. It wasn't amusing. Not at the time, I'm sure. I close a filled box and begin filling another. Everything in here belongs to Lily. Why are your things out here in boxes? They were supposed to go to storage. Before I came here, well, I suppose you could say that I was getting out of Dodge. Dodge? It's an old saying. It means getting out of town before there's trouble. Except that I was getting out of the country. I knew that your parents would be. She sighs and shakes dirt from a cashmere fedora. I knew that it was about time. Time. Almost like a rebirth. What was it like? Lily startles. What do you mean? Did you see the construction? It sounds harsh. It is. It was. She vigorously shakes her head. Oh, no. Once I knew what they were up to, I stayed at my place in Kennebunk. Your mother and I hardly talked during that period. You didn't approve. She's quiet, laying the fedora in the top of a full box and closing it. She pulls 2 feet of tape from the roll, the screech cutting through the dusty silence. Approve is probably not the right word, she finally says. Shock, maybe, or fear. She thinks for a moment longer and adds, maybe approve is the right word. I don't know. It was the unknown. I understand. It's the unknown that I fear. The bits of memories that still have no connections. The role I played in Kara's and Locke's deaths. The voices that linger, too fresh. The constant game of weighing percentages. wondering if 10% of one thing can be worth as much as 90% of something else. And then the answer that always runs through my neurons and neurochips: unknown. That's one thing Mother and Father didn't plan on, the unknown. There's a lot I haven't told them. She perks up, looking almost pleased that I found fault with Mother and Father's little coup. Like what? She asks. Remembering my baptism, and even earlier memories. Are you sure? I nod. It frightened me at first, but now, somehow it comforts me. Like I have every bit of who I was, maybe even more than the Jenna I used to be ever had. Maybe it makes up for what I've lost. Maybe it balances the percentages? Percentages? She huffs. Those are for economists, polls, and politicians. Percentages can't define your identity. She stacks books in a box and looks up. What else haven't you told them? I'm still mulling over the word identity as I answer her. I hear voices. You mean memories? I hesitate. I'm not sure, I tell her. Sometimes they seem too fresh, like they're whispering right into my ear. She stiffens. Who? She asks. Kara and Locke. At least I think it's them. She sits on a nearby box. I know about them, I say. I know they're dead. You remember the accident? No, I read about it, but I think I already knew, somewhere inside. It didn't shock me when I found out. It was more like a confirmation. She looks up at the rafters, the air, her gaze floating through the timbers like she has forgotten I'm even there. They were good kids, she says. I didn't do it, Lily. I move in front of her so she has to look at me. I didn't kill them. It was an accident, Jenna. Unintentional. However it happened. On that much we all agree. I nod, but it was more than just an accident. They would have prosecuted me, except that I was too injured for them to bother. If the police saw me now, what would they do? But it is still more than that. It runs through me, trying to connect bits that are loose. Neuron, neurochip. I didn't kill my friends. Or maybe I just can't accept that I did. Maybe that would mark Jenna's permanent fall from perfection. I gather 3 scattered books from the floor and stuff them in the box. Lily stands holding the flaps shut while I tape it. Why are you telling me all this and not your parents? I'm surprised she would ask. Is she testing me? We both know the answer. Because I always have. I remember the weekends, taking the train to her house, planning all the things I would share, all the events, worries, and mistakes I kept from Mother and Father. I saved them for Lily, because she would listen. Sometimes a person gets tired of being fixed all the time, where every little problem becomes a project, where every shortcoming needs to be addressed. They eventually have to share with someone. My someone was Lily. I seem to remember that you had a high tolerance for listening without melting down over the content. I pull off a last section of tape and stick it to the flap. It wears on a person, you know, always having to be perfect. You know that one day something will happen, some problem that won't fit into a neat little project, something that can't be fixed. Then where does that leave you? She doesn't hesitate. You become mortal, like the rest of us, she says. She turns away, busying herself with more of the mess I have created. I could almost feel sorry for her. I see the line she is dancing. It's the same one I have danced with ever since I saw blue gel beneath my split flesh. You never did tell me, she says. What were you looking for when you turned into a human tornado? It's a casual slip, nothing more. I shouldn't attribute much meaning to it. But still, I noticed the word human. I would gladly be a human tornado. Something to wear, I answer.
The fedora is something to wear.
I was looking for a red skirt I used to have.
It must have been some skirt.
It was. I bought it when I was shopping with Kara.
Oh.
The meaning of the skirt echoes in the single syllable. I wanted a change from all the blue shirts and pants I have now. I thought it might be out here, but I guess Claire left all of my stuff in Boston. More appearances, I suppose.
Probably something like that.
I begin sweeping scraps into a dustpan and change the subject. And you never did tell me, how did all these boxes end up here?
A detour,
she says, frowning.
Claire called me. The house situation had become a problem. She was frantic. The place they had originally planned on hadn't worked out at the last minute, but then your father had an old childhood friend, Edward, whom he knew he could trust. Edward told him about a place near him that was perfect. The right climate, out of the way, roomy, a little run-down, but otherwise just what your parents needed. Except they didn't want ownership traced to them or your father's business. They were in a hurry, so I was the quickest solution. Claire and I have never had the same last name, and no one keeps tabs on what I do anyway. So I bought it for them.
Buying it didn't mean you had to come here.
She asked. No, correction, she begged. She said she needed me. She was scared. And I figured that no matter what I thought about the whole thing, she is my daughter. My only daughter.
So Lily is under Claire's spell, too. She's not that different from me. Lily looks up, squints, then shakes her head.
Might as well tell you the rest. I was also drafted as part of the escape plan, if it became necessary.
What?
They needed an escape plan in case the authorities caught up with them. So, while your parents provide subterfuge, I am to whisk you to Edward, who in turn will help whisk both of us out of the country. The choice was Italy, since they don't have the same restrictive laws as us, and the climate would work well for you.
Whisk me, like I'm a piece of dust deposited in a dustpan. Why didn't they just whisk me out to begin with?
Why do your parents do any of the things they do? They want it all, and if they can get away with it, they will.
I note her take. Getting away with it. It being me, and me being illegal. And now, against her will, she's caught up in something she doesn't believe in and is against the law. How far will a parent go for a child? Well, just where would you be right now if you weren't stuck in this lovely little resort? She smiles.
I was on my way to a friend's villa near Montalcino in Tuscany. A nice enough place to drop out. They offered it to me for as long as I wanted. I was even going to try my hand at winemaking.
Lily's own little Walden never realized. For this. So you traded an Italian villa and wine for a crumbling Cotswold and an illegal lab pet. You're not very good at trades, are you, Lily? She empties a dustpan of broken glass into the trash and looks at me straight on, briefly, then bangs the dustpan against the can to get off all the last particles.
I do okay, she says.
The cleanup is done. There's no busyness to keep us here. We stand there uncomfortably. Our reason for working together has ended, and I still want so much more from Lily. The oafish, out-of-step me surfaces, and I cross the thin line we dance. Would I have wanted this, Lily? Would the Jenna you knew have wanted what I am now? In an instant, I'm desperately afraid because I have crossed a boundary, a black and white yes and no one.
That depends, Jenna, she says. What are you now?
The black and white answer I was expecting swirls into murky gray. I don't know.
Well, until you can answer my question, I can't answer yours.
Identity. Identity. Noun. 1. The condition of being oneself and not another. 2. the sense of self providing sameness and continuity over time. 3. Exact likeness in nature or qualities. 4. Separate or distinct existence. 5. The qualities of a person that make them different from others. I check them off. Different from others. Is 1 yes out of 5 enough? Lily says percentages and politicians can't define identity, but they've defined mine. Illegal lab creation. The hand that I have been dealt. Is this what Alice meant? Alice is so sure of herself, so confident. She calls Dane a decomposing turd without blinking. Without knowing it, she calls me a lab pet. Why am I so drawn to someone who could destroy me? Why do I need her to be my friend? The dictionary says my identity should be all about being separate or distinct, and yet it feels like it is so wrapped up in others. The unknowable. Are there some things I will never know? The unanswerable I will have to accept? Have I changed the way everyone does? Time and events molding me? Or am I a new Jenna, the product of technology, changed by what was put in, or maybe what was left out? And if my original 10% really is enough, what if it had been 9%? Or 8? Is one numeral that different from another? When is a cell finally too small to hold our essence? Even 500 billion neurochips aren't telling me, and I'm not sure they ever will. The question that twists inside me again and again, am I enough? I realize for the first time is not just my question, but was the old Jenna's question as well. And I think about Ethan and Alice and even Dane, and I wonder, has it ever been their own question too? Environment. I'm leaving to pick up your father. I'll be back soon, Claire calls from the bottom of the stairs. I hear her leave. The house is empty. Lily has gone to Sunday Mass. I've never been left home alone before. Are they beginning to trust me? I look out the window at the veranda below. The railings have all been replaced, and the brick walls repaired. The Cotswold is beginning to look more like a house and less like a ruin. Claire's magic is working. Day by day it improves. The upstairs rooms remain empty, but they're at least